We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, everybody. And they got the whole world in their hand. 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 At least in their deluded, predator class, nepotistic viewpoint of social Darwinism. They believe they should rule because they do, and they have. It's inherent. They are the ones that should inherit the vast, bountiful resources of this world. And I'm not going to lie, today's show is going to be pretty starkly dark, in my opinion, because it shows that this agenda is not new. I and many others have been talking about it for a very, very long time, and it had been openly discussed by many of what some would call globalists, because they call themselves that. And I would adhere to that term because this is about the centralization of power. They quote global governance and the idea of eroding sovereignty bit by bit over time in order to achieve their agenda. And there's a stark reminder out there that one of the tools that they've used is science. And now we're talking about artificial intelligence, but we're going to show you a clip from 1973, 6 years before I even walked this earth. 6 years before there was a baby bee out on the streets. You know what I'm saying? There is this amazing piece. And we've played some Club of Rome pieces before. And mind you, one of the things they don't discuss with the Club of Rome, or at least emphasize, right, is the fact that this machine that they use, old AI, right, this computer that's going to tell you how to live and how many people can live and the extent of our resources, which, by the way, are plentiful and bountiful, and they are the actual renewable things on this planet to support a life force. No. No matter what they put into the computer, we were bad and we couldn't stop basically the destruction of our own population. So we better let these people do it for us. They better manage it. And really, Klaus Nutzschwab is just the new face of this. Now, he's been working for a long time. His organization, World Economic Forum, Davos, intricate to be the face of this. The smiley happy face. Ah, yeah. Klaus, not Schwab in the house. All right, we're being silly. It's Reality Rants. We got a lot to go through. I'm Jason Bermas, your host. I want to thank you guys for coming in. Hit that thumbs up, like, whatever platform you're watching on. Please make sure you're subscribed. It's so funny, like, over the weekend, somebody who I've met through the Union of the Unwanted, libertarian type, we followed each other and had some DM communications. He got into a thread where he saw that Militich had said something, and Militich had literally just left my house because we were watching fights on both Friday and Saturday night. And he goes, hey, we're not following each other anymore. Huh. So I'm sure everything's fixed at Twitter. I'm sure that my account hasn't been frozen again. Go look at it. I've gained no followers. I've gained no followers on YouTube, no followers on Twitter. We're doing a daily show on both that's still reaching, conservatively 10,000 people bottom of the barrel across the board, really around 20,000. But no, we can't gain any followers. We're only talking about Microchip being a FBI informant and the actual bot farms not being Russian at all, and the fact the FBI knew this. No big deal. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that not only were these guys involved before the election and through the election, but that they were connected to and possibly helped start Q. No big deal. No. Let's say it's Michael Flynn. Like, what is going on? You're right. We can't get a new audience. So listen, I need your help now more than ever. Share the show with other people. That's how we're going to beat this thing. And I truly believe we are. I saw already in the comments, this is God's world. Look, I think their arrogance will be their undoing at some point. However, a lot of people, they already did some bad things in the last few years, guys. And they're doing a bad thing today. Like, everybody's going to be on the Trump train today. And for good reason. It's an immense day in history because it's really showing the teeth of not just the deep state in this country, but really the globalist cabal that wants complete command and control. And if you step out of line in any way, no, we'll put you in jail. And they do that in a lot of other countries. Now, most guys here have played ball. When they haven't, Kennedy wasn't the first assassination. Unfortunately, politics is bloody globally. So instead of what everybody else is doing, okay, and don't get me wrong, it's worth covering, and talking ad nauseum about Stormy and Bragg and Trump's day of reckoning. The day of reckoning. I'm hoping, again, apparently there wasn't going to be any kind of a perp walk at 2:15 today, which is 1:15 my time. He's supposed to be before the judge. Media circus, get ready for it. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to play Trump talking at Diggity Davos in 2020, January. And maybe on the premium side of the broadcast, he talks for like 40 minutes. So we're not going to watch all that. But there's this 5-minute segment that really is going to encapsulate what we're going to talk about today, because this 1973 clip of the Club of Rome just lays it out. And then I believe it's Professor Ian Pilmer, and he's a scientist. Oh my God, I thought the science was settled, Ian. Ian Pilmer authored something called Green Murder. And in these 3 clips, which I think amount to, 15 or so minutes of like an hour-plus presentation that's on YouTube that I totally recommend everybody watch because it's brilliant. And the guy is just, I've never seen or heard of him before, but he makes a dinosaur analogy that I constantly talk about, in essence. And what do I mean by that? I'll save it for him to talk about the asteroid and the dinosaurs and all these things. But I always say, look, man, I have no clue. I have no clue. I am a 40-year-old dude that is a beauty school dropout that can barely assess what in the flickle schnick truckle schnuck has been going on. I try to do my best. My information is limited. And then I look around and I see how so many other people don't even have that desire to break it down or are just unaware to begin with. And honestly, that's to their detriment, because I don't believe that ignorance is bliss. I think knowledge is power, truth is power, truth is the true love that we all need to embrace, because the more truthful we are with one another, the more discernment we have, the more open discussion and communication that we can share with one another. Hopefully we're going to have a better world, and try not to bring violence into that equation or limit it to those who will basically accept nothing else. Unfortunately, you should always be able to defend yourself, right? We don't have any of that. We have a monopoly on violence. And before I go further and play this Trump clip, I do want to just show something. And, speaking of how we're going to share things and get things out there, I'm going to share this. Beyond the Reset. Now, I watched this day's Tuesday. So I think it was either Thursday or Friday I came across it. Possibly Saturday. It could have been as late as Saturday. Powerful. I'm surprised it's still on YouTube, to be quite honest. I may end up doing a watch along with it, but it's extremely powerful. When I first started watching it, I know that those who have followed me for a while know about I Pet Goat 2 by Heliofan. And that was like a powerful 9-minute piece, a lot more spirituality, amazing graphically, takes the cake there. But this is extremely well done and extremely powerful. And really, it's got a great message at the end as well. Well, I hope it stays up on YouTube. Had about, like I said, 100,000 views when I watched it, almost 400,000 now. This thing needs to go super mega viral. And I think eventually it probably will be taken off of YouTube. I think it was by some Oleg gentleman. I don't remember what his last name is, but shout out to him. I should get him on the show. It's absolutely fantastic. And in fact, I think I'm going to reach out. That would be a great guest, because Beyond the Reset, it doesn't. It does. It calls Klaus Nutschwab out by face and name. I don't want to spoil too much of it for you, but it's fantastic. It's fantastic. All right. So, first things first, we're going to start this bad boy off with Trump at Davos after being introduced by Klaus Nutschwab, all right, in 2020, January. Now, this is just shy, I believe, of 3 months before the shiz-nizzle goes down in this country and around the globe and things start getting locked down in March. Much to Trump's discredit. Shouldn't have listened to Pompeo and I'm sure Barr on the side and all these other, bastardly people. Bill Barr is terrible. Michael Pompeo is terrible and trying to run for president right now. Yuck. Ew. Disgusting. I believe, remember, this is Davos post-event 201, which happened in October. And actually, this is a big story that I haven't talked about yet. We got to bring that up. I forgot. Do I have that? Let's see. Yes, it is. So just check this out. Just saying. Is this more proof that the truth was held before the world? Okay, December 2019, days before China raised the alarm, we're looking at a German man in Germany with this. Now, I've said before, the evidence to me is clear it was in the United States, probably in October and November. Maybe even in September, by the way. Just point that out there. Just point that out. So, really, I think this was in preparation. Obviously, people were in the know. I want to leave it at that because we're on YouTube. But this is right before everything's going to be kicking off. So let me cue it up. And what I think I cue it up right around the time that Trump is also talking about not only energy independence here, which, of course, big deal. Big deal on the energy independence. And how they should be sharing it with Europe. And what are we talking about now? We don't have any oil reserves. We're at the behest of Saudi Arabia. The OPEC, the petrodollar is done. Lots of great stuff. That's in the background. I let other people talk about that. It is extremely important, but it's the kind of thing I've been talking about forever. And to really get down to how, again, that's been eroded over time, but really speedballed through this administration in particular, because it's the zombie globalist administration. Joe Biden doesn't run anything. He's the most puppety puppet I've ever seen in my life visually. At least the other puppets out there could speak on their own. They still knew how to talk. I mean, when he was asked about OPEC yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, what? What? They got to go, OPEC! As he gets on the plane, OPEC! And he goes, it's not going to be as bad as you think. What? Clown show. So I had to. We're probably going to watch this whole thing in retrospect in the second half. But this is a chunk that absolutely needs to be watched and needs to have us pay attention to it. Period. Okay. Because
by Klaus Schwab, who is the head of the World Economic Forum,
and of course I
Donald
just
Trump,
didn't cue
taking
it.
the
There's
stage
Klausy
here in Davos.
Congratulations.
There.
And we're going to keep it that way. And we just came out with a report that at this moment, it's the cleanest it's been in the last 40 years. We're committed to conserving the majesty of God's creation and the natural beauty of our world. Today, I'm pleased to announce the United States will join 1 Trillion Trees initiative being launched here at the World Economic Forum. 1 trillion trees.
Man, did I may have also, I had it queued up. It's actually probably before this, the 1 trillion tree thing, but I'm not sure. So now we're going to have to maybe bear through a little bit more Trump, but hey, it's his day, right? It's his day. Let's see. Let's start here at 21.
Ending digital trade, reshoring lost jobs, and ensuring rising wages and living standards. The United States has also concluded a great new trade deal with Japan, approximately $40 billion, and completely renegotiated our deal with South Korea. We're also negotiating many other transactions with many other countries. And we look forward to negotiating a tremendous new deal with the United Kingdom. Have a wonderful new prime minister. Wants very much to make a deal, as they say.
Every time I watch it, you got to admit, like, it's make a deal, as they say. And we are definitely before the point that we're going to go. And if we do the rewatch on the other side, we'll skip most of this and we'll have the meat and potatoes. But let's continue.
To protect our security and our economy, we are also boldly embracing American energy independence. The United States is now by far the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world, by far.
It's not even close. And look, give the man credit. He did this. He was the man on this. Because it was big business for a lot of his buddies and cronies. And, again, one of the things you got to give Trump is he didn't go for the green agenda. And by the way, he teabags him in this right here. He tells you what it's really about. It's about the command and control. So say whatever you want about the guy. I have. It's kind of my gig, right? And you should too. This part of this speech is spot on.
Not even close. While many European countries struggle with crippling energy costs, the American energy revolution is saving American families $2,500 every year in lowering electric bills and numbers that people said couldn't happen. And also, very importantly, prices at the pump. We've been so successful that the United States no longer needs to import energy from hostile nations. With an abundance of American natural gas now available, our European allies no longer have to be vulnerable to unfriendly energy suppliers either. We urge our friends in Europe to use America's vast supply and achieve true energy security.
Notice, by the way, throughout this right here, everybody is stone cold silent. And you're going to see what he does bring up the tree thing that we are about to get to. That's exactly where I wanted to start. So we didn't do too bad there, actually. He's not wrong there. And had we continued with that and didn't start a war with Russia, we'd have cheaper energy prices and what? Cheaper gas at the pump. And so it would be harder to choke out Europe as well. You know, because we wouldn't have bombed the Nord Stream pipeline. And no big deal.
With U.S. companies and researchers leading the way, we are on the threshold of virtually unlimited reserves of energy, including from traditional fuels, LNG, clean coal, next-generation nuclear power.
They don't like hearing clean coal. They don't like hearing next-generation nuclear power. No. Because those work. And by the way, I'm not saying that all coal is clean. Yeah, some of the real pollution is the mercury runoff of those plants, among other things. We have to acknowledge that. But not so worried about the carbon emissions. Just saying. Not so worried about those.
And gas hydrate technologies. At the same time, I'm proud to report the United States is among the cleanest air and drinking water on Earth, and we're going to keep it that way. And we just came out with a report that at this moment, it's the cleanest it's been in the last 40 years. We're committed to conserving the majesty of God's creation and the natural beauty of our world.
See, this is one of my favorite parts of this right here. Before he starts calling them out. This is where he talks about the trillion trees, because our resources, in large part, the ones we need to live, are what? Actually renewable. Not recycling trash renewable, like renewable, like the life force of the planet. Like we take a tree, we use a tree, the tree, keeps us warm. It makes paper. It does stuff. It's a pencil. It builds a house, right? Then we plant a tree, and it grows again. And so it continues. So when he talks, they don't like trees. Oh, trees, actually, they need carbon to live. We're trying to reduce our carbon. But we're not going to have trees reduce the carbon for us. Weird. So right here, listen to the crowd. Like one person's like, oh, should I clap for this one? I mean, we're kind of joining the tree thing too. We don't want to clap for the guy, but let's clap.
Today, I'm pleased to announce the United States will join 1 Trillion Trees initiative being launched here at the World Economic Forum. 1 trillion trees.
And then it picks up a little.
And in doing so, we will continue to show strong leadership in restoring, growing, and better managing our trees and our forests. This is not a time for pessimism. This is a time for optimism. Fear and doubt is not a good thought process, because this is a time for tremendous hope and joy and optimism and action.
Just think about that. And just that message alone right there. This is just before the COVID-19 84 nightmare kicks off. Fear and doubt. A lot of that after this. It's not a good mindset to have. And I get it. Trump tried to be as positive as possible. He let the demons win. All right? He let the and it's to his fault. It's kind of like you look at Julian Assange. Okay? The man ran on, love the WikiLeaks, can't get enough of the WikiLeaks. Have you seen the WikiLeaks? And then as soon as he was in, he was like, we're going to lock Hillary up, right? No. Guys, calm down. Wait a minute, we're going to not go after Assange, right? we'll see if we can cut a deal. Then they don't. Hey, Donnie, there shouldn't have been any deal cut other than the fact that our DOJ isn't going after him and never goes after him because he didn't break any laws. He's not an American citizen. He was trying to tell the world and American citizens what was going on globally, not just with us. So arrogant of us. We just happen to be, pretty bastardly in a lot of those documents. Vault 7, anyone? To their own citizens. Five Eyes, anyone? All that stuff? Five Eyes, that's Snowden. He failed on that one too. But at least he didn't say, love the Snowden, can't get enough of the Snowden. He did that. And now the irony is that today they want a perp walk and they want to arrest his ass too. They wanted to arrest you too, Donnie T. And they're doing it. Should have stood up for Assange then. Should have stood up to the COVID-19 84 monsters then. It seems like, at least on the back end, you had enough knowledge these people were not to be trusted you were in the room with. And that's about to come up.
But to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse. They are the heirs of yesterday's foolish fortune tellers, and I have them, and you have them, and we all have them. And they want to see us do badly, but we don't let that happen. They predicted an overpopulation crisis in the 1960s, mass starvation in the 70s, and an end of oil in the 1990s. These alarmists always demand the same thing: absolute power to dominate, transform, and control every aspect of our lives.
Boom! Mic drop. I mean, that's about as concise a description as we have for what we're about to watch in this Club of Rome 1973 piece. You understand? About as concise of a description as you can get. Donnie knows who he's talking to. So what happened, Donnie T?
We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country, or eradicate our liberty.
Globalists, collectivists, you can call it socialism or communism if you like. I know that's the buzz term and what so many people want to call it here. No, these are globalist monsters. All right, collectivists, command and control. All right, regiment all lives and all aspects of those lives, the whole world in their hand.
America will always be the proud, strong, and unyielding bastion of freedom. In America, we understand what the pessimists refuse to see, that a growing and vibrant market economy focused on the future lifts the human spirit and excites creativity, strong enough to overcome any challenge by far.
So once again, sounds good, Donnie. Very, very happy with what you're saying there. They've crushed that. They want to crush creativity. They get it. They're not naive. They understand it, but that creativity to them, right? That technology that could cause upward mobility for us, that threatens the status quo. That threatens what? Not only their globalist new world order, okay, that society, but their transhumanist and eventually, unfortunately, post-human future they have planned for this planet. That's the reality. And so we're going to stop that there. Again, it's a 30-minute speech. Maybe we'll go back and we'll watch that in the second hour. We'll see how much time we have left. Again, can we get the thumbs up? Can we get the likes in? I mean, they're putting the man in jail today, and hopefully they're letting him go. Let's hope they don't put the gag order on him, but it seems like a foregone conclusion they're going to put the gag order on him, which is, to me, I believe that the gag order is there not just so he doesn't talk about it, but hopefully so they can get him to say something stupid on the record, from his ego and not thinking, and then just put him in jail anyway for the 30 days. We told you not to talk about it, Donnie T. Sorry, Trump and House, jail for you. Jail for you. Just because they can. That's where we're at. I mean, ugh. So, This is a Club of Rome 1973 piece. Now, remember, Club of Rome predates the World Economic Forum. They're all in the same wheelhouse, right? These think tanks, these organizations. And really what they end up being is the mouthpieces for the agenda, right? Like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and the World Health Organization, they love to pump up today's world thought leaders. The Bernaysian language they use is over the top, but it's the thought leaders. Now, this is Club of Rome, 1973. Their old school computer systems and the doom of human society, unless what? We make drastic changes, and of course, they reference our cars, overpopulation, and more. Let's get to it.
The program, called World One, doesn't pretend to be a precise forecast. What it does for the first time in man's history on the planet is to look at the world as one system. It shows that Earth cannot sustain present population and industrial growth for much more than a few decades. It shows that simply cleaning up our car exhausts and making some small effort to limit our families simply isn't enough. It's like an electronic guided tour of our global behavior since 1900.
So just so everybody understands, even then, 73, with their primitive computers when the science was settled, not having, forget about just having less kids and no, we're going to have to do more. Or in several decades, we're on the road to doom. So like 2003-ish before I could, actually 2003, so how old is I'm 24 in 2003. I'm an old man. Now I can do it all. Wow. I mean, but that, I guess, was supposed to be the end of the world. Just like the Mayans predicted 2012. So many people told me about 2012, and it wasn't going to be the end of the world. It was going to be like a polarity flip, and George Lucas was buying into stuff like that. The poles will shift, and guys, let's grow up, okay? Again, the prophets of doom, be very, very wary of those prophets of doom when the enemy is invisible. It's invisible. It's not a person, an organization, a piece of legislation, a politician, a political body, an institution. No, it's invisible. And it engulfs the planet. And there's a group of people within institutions that are going to save you from it. I mean, whoa.
And where that behavior will lead us. Well, this is the printed version of what we've just seen on the television screen. And what looks at first to be just a maze of computer characteristics is really a system of very simple graphs which project what's going to happen to the planet over the next 150 years if we don't do something drastic to stop it. Down the left-hand side of the graph is the date, 1900, 1940, 1980, 2020, right down to 2060. Now, each of these lines of letters represents a curve showing some aspect of the condition of the planet. The further out this way they go, the greater that figure is. The further this way, the less. For example, P represents population. So here it is at 1900, and then it comes up to 1940, it starts to take off. Here we are at 1980, up to the turn of the century, and then it starts to peter off. Let's now have a look at this next curve, the Q curve, which is the quality of life. And this is represented by, for example, the amount of space people have, the amount of money they have to spend, the amount of food they have to eat. Now, it increases rapidly up to 1940, but from 1940 on, the quality of life diminishes. And here we are about the turn of the century, and we come up to the year 2020, and it's really come right back.
So, by the way, we're in 2023, and look, they are trying to slowly erode our quality of life. And look, 1940 is one thing, right? That's post-World War II boom. That's a house, 2 cars, 1 person, 40 hours a week. Our currency has been devalued, all right? Resource control has been consolidated. It is a manufacturing of not the standard of living of everybody going down through that. That's not what's been done. I mean, think about how third world nations have been elevated to second and sometimes first world nations over our generations. You can say what you want about China, but obviously the standard of living in many places there has gone up. It's been eroded in the West. It's been slowly eroded in European nations, right? Because that's what they're pushing, the end of the haves and the have-nots. But they don't want to tell you about the have-everythings, right? You will own nothing and be happy. So all of it's manufactured, but they got a science graph sheet right there. It's going to tell you that your standard of living just... No, they want your standard of living to plummet. Something that I haven't played in a while on here. I used to play it all the time, that Dennis Bushnell told you would happen as the Asians and their society came up into the 1+ billion. You understand? That's the reality. All right, let's go back to this because it gets really stark really quick.
All people, of course, means that you start to chew up your supply of natural resources. And this is this curve here, the N curve. And it shows that slowly but steadily, the pool of natural wealth in the world, natural resources, minerals, oil, and so on, is slowly but steadily diminishing. So,
and again, Trump talked about how they said it was going to be the end of oil and a starvation crisis, all these things. All these things. Again, renewable resources. They call them fossil fuels, but are they? Oh, Jason's really controversial there. Just saying, it's been out there for a long time now that it's actually something that is renewable within, the life cycle of the planet. Just pointing that out, just putting it out there. But no. It has to be. I remember during the 9/11 Truth Days, when certain people would promote the idea that the reason that 9/11 had actually happened was the United States need to monopolize the resources because of peak oil. They were talking about peak oil by 2010 or 2015, and never happened. Action Jackson, not real. Again, fear of the invisible, fear of the unknown. Let's control them through fear.
this is the situation. As population increases, the quality of life decreases, and the supply of natural resources decreases. But have a look at this curve here. This is called the Z curve, and it represents pollution. Now, predictably enough, as the population increases up to 1980, pollution increases. There's more rubbish. But from 1980 to the year 2020, pollution really takes off. This is assuming, of course, that we don't do anything about it. So the year 2020, the condition of the planet starts to become highly critical.
See how it's pollution, but it's always too many people doing too many things, like Ted Turner said. Too many people doing too many things. That's why we got climate change. Not just global warming anymore, right? That's why we got climate change. So again, we're at 2020. I'm not saying we're the cleanest, but they got like a rocket ship to nowhere. We should be living in Mad Max land. We didn't change much.
Now, we don't do anything about it. This is what's going to happen. The quality of life is going to go right back to practically zero. Pollution is going to become so serious, right out here, that it will start to kill people. So the population will diminish.
Now, where have we heard this before? Oh, yeah, that's right. That Earth 2100 with Anthony Fauci, right? Eric Schmidt from Google at the time, Van Jones, John Podesta, James Woolsey, all those characters, saying that climate change was going to cause the weather to hurt us more and cause what? Zoological viruses, zoonotic viruses. Oh, biological threats, famines, droughts, all the horses of the apocalypse, all because we're bad. Same thing, same garbage being promoted by the Club of Rome back in the Dizzy.
Right back here, less than it was in the year 1900. And at this stage, round about the year 2040, 2050, civilized life as we know it on this planet will cease to exist. Well, hopefully, of course,
2040 to 2050, civilized life is going to cease to exist. Now, I hope I'm around in 2040, 2050, 27 years from now. You know, that bottom line, I hope most of us are here. If they push Agenda 2030 through, even if it takes a little longer, I don't know. I don't know how it's looking for the global populace in the next 12 to 36 months. I think there's going to be some aftershock. Okay, that's when I think we're really going to start to see some bad stuff happen that a lot of people didn't expect. What that bad stuff is, you can guess. But we're on YouTube, so I don't want to speculate anymore. But here we are, Club of Rome, the purveyors of doom that Trump was talking about these things, the prophets of doom, a generation ago. And we're just going to let them continue here. I mean, this now is literally 50-year-old propaganda that they're still pushing on us.
It won't be allowed to happen. But it's taken this kind of shock treatment to nudge governments into doing something, and slowly we're starting to clean up our atmosphere, we're starting to recycle our rubbish, we're doing something positive about population control. But so far, our efforts have really been just a drop in the ocean. The Club of Rome comprises some 70 men of widely varying backgrounds, but their common concern is that the world problems cannot be solved by individual nations. I spoke with Professor Hugo Tiemann, director of the Battelle Institute, Geneva, Dr. Aurelio Pache, founder of the club, and Dr. Alexander King, director of the World Bank and the United Nations OECD.
Oh, the World Bank and the United Nations. Now, you know what? I love the World Bank. Banks and global government together, they obviously have the little guy in mind. When they talk about equity, they mean it. When they talk about diversity, they love it. They're not beholden to a system of manipulation, greed, corruption, and monopolization. No, not the World Bank. I love the World Bank. They're numero uno.
King, now you're describing the world as a closed system where all these things are interrelated, and yet the government, the control of the system is by individual nation states. Now, how do you convince them to cooperate?
The sovereignty of these nations is no longer as absolute as it was.
I mean, let's bring it in nice and zoomy. This guy is about to tell you straight up 15 years ago, or 50 years ago, that the sovereignty of nations, even then, is not what it was. It's like the Ned Beatty speech in Network. Mr. Beale! Only this guy's outward about it. And he's going to tell you that they're going to slowly erode away at nation sovereignty, all right, for global governance. Oh, sorry, right here.
There's a gradual diminishing, whittling away of sovereignty, little bit by little bit. Especially, of course, in the smaller countries where it's more obvious. But the bigger countries have to do a good deal of this by agreeing to international arrangements for the law of the seas, or for the limits of fishing, or for control of the wavelengths in radio, and 101 other things. But
and 100, we're going to regulate it all. They got the whole world in their hand. They got the whole damn world in their hand. And 100 and 1,000 and 1,000,001 other things. How arrogant is this mother trucker?
Especially in the technological field, I think this is going to be increasingly so because of developments next year. I was at an important meeting in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and Peterson, the former Secretary of Commerce, was saying the same thing from an economic point of view, that the general world economic situation, the interdependence of countries on their food and fuels and so on, is leading to an interdependence which has seeds of draining away of sovereignty within it. So I don't think one can envisage an idealistic of jumping to a world federalism or anything of that sort. But the building up probably in the next decade in a number of particularly sensitive fields like energy, raw materials, the use of the oceans, space, and so on, of a number of what people are tending to call regimes, which will not be ordinary United Nations type of organizations, but semi-management organizations. There'll be a great deal of consent in them.
There'll be a great deal of consent. Notice how he talked about what? Treaties that would erode these sovereignties. And we're constantly talking about these global treaties or agreements. And the regimes that he's talking about are the institutions or cabals, if you will, outside of nation states that we've seen more and more of. You know, very outward in this, very arrogant, very in your face.
Dr. Bachet views the European Common Market as an elementary example of the kind of regional cooperative which is going to be necessary. What responsibilities does he see for Australia?
Australia, you are in a splendid position.
What should we do?
You have food, energy, space. You are distant from other centers, so you can, for a longer time, feel rather more independent than interdependent. But things of the world are going so fast that I think that an enlightened leadership in Australia should see down the road that Australia will have to lose some of its own self-decisions.
Now, this is all about eroding the sovereignty of all nations. But remember, we talked about westernized nations. When you think about who had it the absolute 100% worst in Western nations, you got to look at Canada and especially what? Australia. I mean, I don't want to call them camps, but I would encourage everybody who just tuned in, again, another plug, shameless plug for this. No, I'm not getting paid for it. It's that good. Beyond the Reset. Beyond the Reset. Must watch. Must watch. Okay? So let's go back to the old Club of Rome.
In order to acquire something else, which may be purely political in very wide sense, or maybe also security.
The Club of Rome is...
Oh, security. And then, again, they love their invisible enemies. Security. Oh, it's about security.
reluctant to point the finger at any one nation. Yet clearly, nations like the United States, which consumes approximately 60% of the world's resources, will, in the club's view, have to accept a severe cutback in its voracious appetite.
Its voracious appetite. The United States is bad. We've got to cut them out.
But the club's utterances are cloaked in a velvet democracy, in the hope that their facts will gently persuade.
We will ask who is making the decision, and whether the decision makers of today, whether they perceive the problems, what kind of problems, and the interactions of the problems. That's a very pragmatic approach.
Has the time come, Dr. King, when we're going to have to say we can no longer entrust our resources and the exploitation of those resources to private enterprise? Has the time come when governments will simply have to take more control?
What are you talking about? Governments throughout history have nationalized resources continually. And then when we're talking about privatized countries that are doing this stuff, what do they get most of the time? Government contractors. Like that blows my mind. And then we act like, don't get me wrong, this is 1973, but the Central Intelligence Agency, working with the International Monetary Fund, one of those global banks, read John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman, they would go in, on behalf of industry and take over the resources of those countries with corrupt leaders and exploit them. I know, we'll just let more corrupt leaders exploit all of us and all of our resources and manage everything on behalf of Gaia, the Earth.
Simple nationalization and things like that wouldn't help at all, because we've got to keep an incentive approach. And many of the good aspects of private enterprise are very necessary here, but not in the old exploitative way where the market forces dominated the whole situation.
Dr. Pichai, can you tell me what my lifestyle will be in 100 years' time? What sort of car I'll drive, what sort of house I'll live in, what sort of food I'll be eating?
Probably you will have a smaller car. You will use more common transport means.
I mean, this is just, you're taking the bus, you're taking the train, your car is a smaller, your house is a smaller, you're eating a less. Like what?
You will work many far less hours.
That's the big promise. You're going to work a lot less. Remember that, everybody? This is the big promise we've gone over. Don't worry, the technology is going to make you work less. Instead of one person in the family with 5 people in that family on average, being able to manage everything, own their own home, again, own multiple cars, have a piece of land, be able to save money. Remember that? Saving money? No, we turned into a society of debtors where it took 2 people in most cases to have that same family go into debt, be on a mortgage plan, and hope retirement is going to take care of them at the end with little to no savings. That's the reality.
You will have a wider cultural possibilities that today. You will not be so much pressed by immediate needs because through technology, organization of the markets, the basic needs will be taken care of. And I think that you will love nature and continue then what I think you are doing now to protect our environment, to avoid this man-made world where the creatures of nature, the animals, the plants, the green spaces, the wildernesses are bound to disappear.
Yeah, they're bound to disappear. No, not even close. We use about 5% of the usable land as human beings with 8 billion people on the planet. So what's he doing right there? First of all, there's the guilt trip of humanity, and then there's the virtue signal that, oh, you're going to be doing the right thing. You're going to be doing the right thing. So we got about 8 minutes left in the free portion of the broadcast. I do want to remind everybody that we do stream live over at Podbean, so you can listen to this. Over on Twitter, I just gave a list of, I think, 4 or 5 links of the show, of the premium portion of the broadcast that are now fully free over at redvoicemedia.com. Please support us. Come on over to the paid portion if you can. It's $1 to start for the first week if you like it. Then it is $10 a month, or save yourself $20. Lock it in at redvoicemedia.com/Jason or redvoicemedia.com/uncensored, right? And get $20 off, $100. And that really shows people that you're committed and Red Voice Media can continue to grow. Myself, Drew Berquist, Ray Dietrich, Alicia Powell, Chad Canton, now Matt Couch, and there's going to be a few others. Okay. In this next several minutes, I want to show you what the Club of Rome really is. And we've played a clip of this gentleman before talking about smallpox eradication. Can't play that on YouTube. We've played it on the premium side of the broadcast. But this is a gentleman telling you straight up what the Club of Rome actually is.
The Club of Rome is one of the most insidious, baneful organizations in existence today, which has done intolerable, immeasurable harm to the United States of America. This Committee of 300 told a man called Aurelio Pecci to form this Club of Rome with the main object of bringing down the industries and the agricultural development of the United States. He immediately wrote a paper in which he said there are too many people on the earth and that the United States with its industrial development, its agricultural development, is responsible for this curse of overpopulation. And he picked up the documentation for his work from Lord Bertrand Russell, a senior statesman of the Committee of 300. And Lord Bertrand Russell had written a work called The Impact of Science on Society. And if you can ever secure a copy of that book, which I doubt you'll be able to get, you will see in there that he said, the world is grossly overpopulated and we have to get rid of at least half of the world's population, and it doesn't matter how we do it. So the Club of Rome was instituted and organized to start an attack on the world's population using the United States as the whipping boy. And they came up with a paper called the Zero Growth Post-Industrial Plan for Industry and Agriculture for the United States of America. 3 days after that plan was accepted as official United States policy by James Earl Carter, I was able to, through my intelligence people, get a copy of this insidious document. Basically what it said was that the middle class in the United States of America had to be destroyed because in the coming push to a world order, the middle class would be the stumbling block, because history had shown that the peasant class in ancient days, when they had revolted, were just easily crushed. There was no resistance, but now had grown a new super class of people in the United States called the middle class, who had long-term employment, who had job security, who were well paid, who could afford to buy the products that were made by the United States and didn't need to buy products from China or anywhere else. And the Club of Rome post-industrial zero-growth paper said this has got to stop. We have to bring down the middle class of the United States. And the way that we will do this, the way that we will accomplish this task is by crushing their industries. In 1980, based on this report, I wrote a small work, a booklet called The Death of the United States Steel Industry. And in that I told of a French aristocrat by the name of Etienne Davignon. And I'm sure there's not a single steel worker in America out of a job who's ever heard of this man's name. But they put this aristocrat onto the job of destroying first the steel industry. In my book in 1980, I said that by 1985 we would have silent blast furnaces.
Let me just stop right there. Davignon is in my film Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined. Why? Because via Bilderberg, that's how they created the European Union, and that's how they build these institutions step by step to move you into globalism, to the global order this man is talking about. Let's let him finish up before we go over to that second hour. Remember, you can listen to it free over on Podbean, the InfoWarrior channel, or come on over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason and join Premium.
The rolling mills would be stopped. There would be no more shipbuilding. We'd have thousands of skilled workers who'd passed the skills of their trade down for generations, who were forever dispossessed of their jobs. If you go to the Northeast United States today, ladies and gentlemen, and I've just been up in Cleveland where I had a very good radio address I gave there, you will find that what I said in 1980 has unhappily come to pass. In 1970, the United States had 5,000 ships built by good United States know-how, using good United States steel. 5,000 ships sailing the high seas. Last year, we had exactly 270 such ships, and at least 50,000 steel workers permanently out of a job, jobs that will never come back. What happened? Did we suddenly lose our marbles? Did we suddenly lose that great American know-how of getting things done? Did we lack finances? Did we run out of money? No. None of those things happened. What happened was this dastardly Club of Rome had sent their emissaries to the United States to deliberately destroy our steel plants, and they did it by opening the doors of so-called free trade. And everybody who signed the NAFTA treaty and everybody who signs the GATT treaty when it passes is a traitor and a seditionist.
Damn straight. That guy's full video also huge. We never even got to Sir Ian Pilmer in the first part of this broadcast, but I assure you that we will be getting to Pilmer over at the paid portion of the broadcast. So what I'm going to do, and that's Professor Ian Pilmer, you're going to be able to check that out anywhere. We're going to start going over to the premium broadcast one at a time. Shout out to the producer. Goodbye, Rockfin.